The marketplace of Zelvar Prime was no place for the weak. The air was thick with neon haze and the ever-present hum of anti-gravity engines above, massive cargo haulers threading through orbital lanes that split the dark skies. Beneath the glaring lights, merchants barked their wares: plasma rifles, combat drones, gene-forged gladiators bred for war. Slaves were displayed in shining cages, not as people, but as property. And at the very center of it all, beneath a tower of holoscreens projecting live auctions across the bazaar, stood the girl they called the Broken One. She was tall, taller than any human. Her pale skin marred with deep scars that traced jagged lines where cybernetic grafts had failed to integrate. Her left arm twitched sporadically, the mechanical servos grinding against flesh, never fully synced. Her once proud crest of ridged hair, a mark of her species' warrior caste, had been shorn away. Shackled in photon-binding chains, she kept her head bowed, her golden alien eyes dulled to ash. Once she had been feared. The Draken warriors were considered among the most lethal species in the Outer Rim, every child bred, trained, and modified for combat from birth. But this one, she had failed the final ritual of augmentation, where her peers had ascended into near-invincible biotechnological champions. Her body had rejected the implants. Her own clan branded her defective, a disgrace to her lineage. So they sold her. Lot 17, the alien auctioneer roared, his voice amplified through vox speakers. His mandibles clattered as he gestured toward her. Draken female, enhanced but unstable. Combat experience. Limited. Useful for manual labor, testing, or entertainment purposes. A wave of laughter rippled through the alien crowd. Merchants, mercenaries, and smugglers sneered at the sight of her. Scrap metal with flesh still attached. Not worth the feed she'll consume. Better off spacing her. The alien girl said nothing. She didn't even flinch. She had heard it all before. In her people's eyes, she was already dead. The bidding started at 50 credits. An insult. No hands were raised. Even the slavers shifted uncomfortably, knowing they might have to dispose of her themselves. For a moment silence hung heavy. And then, "I'll take her." The voice was human. Heads turned. The crowd rippled with confusion and disbelief. From the shadow of the marketplace, a man stepped forward. He wore battered combat armor, patched together from different campaigns, the insignia of Earth's defense forces scratched and worn. His helmet hung at his hip, revealing a face weathered not by implants or gene forging, but by time, grit, and survival. Human. One of the so-called fragile species, a race the galaxy had long underestimated. The auctioneer's mandibles clicked in surprise. "You want this one. She's defective." The man shrugged. "So am I." Laughter roared again, cruel and mocking, but this time it couldn't touch the strange calm around him. His eyes, steel gray and steady, met the alien girl's for the first time. She tried to look away, ashamed, but something in his gaze held her. There was no pity there, no disgust, just a recognition. The human tossed a credit chit to the auctioneer. "She's mine." Gasps rippled across the crowd. Slaves were claimed every day, but this was different. No one wanted the broken alien girl. She was supposed to rot in the shadows of Zelvar. Yet here was a human, claiming her not as a tool, not as scrap, but as something worth standing beside. The auctioneer hesitated. "She is bound by contract to servitude. If you take her, her failures are yours to bear." "She will never." "She will," the human cut him off, his voice firm, unwavering. "Because I say she will." The photon shackles released with a hiss. The alien girl staggered as her knees threatened to buckle. For the first time in years she was free of chains, yet she felt no triumph, only confusion. The human extended a hand toward her. His armor plates were scratched, his knuckles scarred. A soldier's hand. "Come with me," he said simply. Her mind screamed at her to refuse. She was broken, useless, a disgrace. Her people had cast her out for good reason. Why would this human, of all creatures, see value in her? And yet her trembling hand lifted. Slowly, hesitantly, she placed it in his. Gasps echoed across the marketplace. In that moment the galaxy shifted. A human had claimed the unwanted, the discarded, the abandoned. Where others saw failure, he saw potential. Where others saw a burden, he saw a future. The alien girl's eyes shimmered for the first time in years, not with rage or despair, but with the faintest spark of something she thought she had lost forever. Hope. And though she did not yet know it, this single act of defiance, this human's choice, would ignite a chain of events that would shake the foundations of empires. Because the galaxy had forgotten one thing. Humanity had a habit of making the impossible possible. And now, the broken alien girl was no longer alone. The ship that carried them away from Zelvar Prime was not majestic by galactic standards. It wasn't one of the crystalline cruisers of the Valari or the war barges of the Draken. It was a patched-up, jury-rigged human frigate, steel hull, burn-scorched plating, a vessel that looked as though it had survived one war too many. To the alien girl, it felt like stepping from one cage into another. She sat in silence, shackled again, though this time by her own shame, not photon bindings, as the ship broke orbit. The human sat opposite her in the cramped crew bay. He hadn't spoken much since the auction. He only checked the flight systems, adjusted the ship's course, and finally sat down with a heavy exhale. For a long while the silence stretched. Then at last he spoke. "My name's Kale," he said simply, his voice rough but steady. "And you're safe now." The alien girl flinched. Safe. The word was foreign to her. Among the Draken, safety did not exist. You were strong or you were prey. She opened her mouth, her voice hoarse and used. "I am broken," she said, her own alien tongue struggling to shape the words of his language. Her voice carried no pride, only resignation. "My people cast me out. You wasted your credits." Kale leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees. His gray eyes studied her, not as an enemy, not as a commodity, but as someone worth understanding. "Where I come from," he said quietly, "broken things aren't thrown away. They're fixed, made stronger." She didn't believe him, couldn't. But when he stood and motioned for her to follow, something compelled her to rise. The medbay of his ship was unlike anything she'd seen before. Draken healing chambers were brutal, mechanical things, implant grafting stations that cared only about efficiency, not pain. But here, in the softly lit room of human design, there was a warmth she couldn't name. Kale powered up a table covered in hollow schematics. Projected across the air were lines of data, neural pathways, cybernetic integration models, adaptive nanite overlays. He gestured toward her twitching arm. "Your people tried to force augmentations into your body. They never considered compatibility. But humans? We adapt tech to the person, not the other way around." She stared at him, uncomprehending. "Why?" "Because we don't leave our own behind." He didn't wait for her protest. He scanned her arm with a humming device that projected layers of tissue, broken nerve endings, and rejected implants. Where the Draken engineers had abandoned her. He looked deeper, patiently, carefully. Hours turned into days. Kale worked tirelessly, dismantling the failing servos piece by piece, reattaching filaments with microscopic drones, recalibrating with adaptive AI protocols that adjusted to her unique physiology. Each time she hissed in pain, he paused, not out of weakness, but to ensure her body could bear it. He taught her about the technology as he worked. Nanites that could rebuild muscle fiber at a cellular level. A neural interface that listened to her signals rather than overriding them. "This isn't about making you a weapon," he told her one night as he adjusted the graft along her shoulder. "It's about giving you back your choice." The alien girl had never heard words like that before. Dignity. Her people had stripped those from her the moment she failed their test. And yet, with every passing day, her strength returned. Not just her body, but something inside her she thought dead. Her first breakthrough came unexpectedly. Kale had fitted her with a prototype exoglove, designed to sync with the repaired cybernetics in her arm. When he asked her to try flexing her hand, she expected the same painful spasm as always. Instead, her fingers obeyed. Smoothly, naturally. Her breath caught. For the first time in years, her body moved without failure. Kale grinned at her astonishment. "Told you. Not broken. Just waiting for the right fix." Something cracked inside her then, a wall she had built to protect herself from hope. She clenched her hand into a fist, staring at it as if it belonged to someone else. She could feel the strength in it, not forced, not artificial, but her own. Tears, alien molten gold tears, slipped down her scarred cheeks. "Why do this?" she whispered, her voice trembling. "You gain nothing." Kale's expression softened. He leaned back in his chair, tired but unyielding. "Because someone once did the same for me," he said quietly. "I was just another soldier they wrote off. Wounded, left behind. But a human medic dragged me out, refused to let me die. She told me the same thing I'm telling you now. No one is worthless." Silence stretched between them, heavy and fragile. For the first time, the alien girl believed he meant it. Weeks passed. Kale's repairs went beyond her arm. He recalibrated the rejected spinal implants, weaving in human-built stabilizers. He restored the ruined optic in her left eye, upgrading it with a human lens that could track spectrums Diaraken never evolved to see. And in between surgeries, calibrations, and long hours of work, he spoke with her. Listen, laugh. It wasn't just her body he was rebuilding. It was her soul. Her people had told her she was a failure, useless, cast aside. But Kale showed her something alien to her species. Compassion. He treated her not as an experiment or a servant, but as an equal. The girl who once kept her eyes down now began to lift her head. The one who once spoke only in whispers now asked questions about his people, about Earth, about why humanity fought so hard despite their fragility. And Kale answered with a smile every time. "Because we refused to quit." One night, as the ship drifted in deep space, the alien girl stood in the medbay, staring at her reflection in the polished surface of the holotable. The scars were still there. The pain was still there. But now she saw something else. Strength. She flexed her restored arm, the servos humming in perfect harmony with muscle and will. She no longer saw a broken outcast. She saw someone who had been remade, not into a weapon, not into a tool, but into herself again. Kale entered quietly behind her, setting down another tray of tools. "You're not done yet," he said with a grin. For the first time she returned it. Not done. Not broken. Becoming whole again. And she knew, deep in her heart, that when the time came to face her people, the ones who had abandoned her, she would not face them as a failure. She would stand beside the one who had given her back her future. Human. The day came sooner than either of them expected. Kale's ship had just broken into the trade lanes of the Haleth Nebula when the scanners screamed to life. The telltale spikes of Diaraken warships filled the screen, sleek, black vessels etched with the runes of conquest. Their shapes blotted out the stars, predatory and merciless. The alien girl, no longer shackled, no longer cowed, stared at the display in silence. Her golden eyes hardened. She knew those ships. They belonged to her former clan. The ones who had abandoned her. The ones who had labeled her unworthy. Her chest tightened. For all her newfound strength, some part of her still feared them. They had always been unshakable, unbreakable, a force bred only for war. And now they had come for her. Kale didn't flinch. His hands moved across the controls, activating the ship's defense grid. Shields hummed to life, energy crackling over the hull. "They're hailing us," he said calmly. "Want me to answer?" She hesitated, then nodded. The comms lit up, and a massive Diaraken warrior appeared in holographic projection. His armor gleamed, his body augmented to perfection. His voice rumbled like thunder. "Outcast," he spat. "You dare exist in our space. Your defect should have ended in death, yet here you crawl among the vermin species." His burning eyes shifted to Kale. "Human. Release the failed one. She is ours to erase." The alien girl's fists clenched. Shame warred with anger inside her. But before she could answer, Kale leaned forward, his voice sharp as steel. "Not anymore. She's mine." The Diaraken roared with laughter. "Yours. She's nothing. A broken tool unfit even for labor. Humanity has no place among warriors. Step aside before you are crushed." Kale's eyes narrowed. "Funny. That's what they've always said about us too. Fragile. Weak. Doomed. And yet here we are, still standing." He glanced at the alien girl then, his voice softening just enough for her to hear. "You're not broken. Not anymore. Show them." Her heart hammered in her chest. For years she had lived in the shadow of her people's judgment, convinced their word was law. But Kale's belief burned inside her now, a fire stronger than the fear. She stepped forward into the holographic projection, her voice steady. "I am not yours. You cast me out. You called me worthless. But I have been remade. Not by force. Not by cruelty. By choice." The Diaraken commander sneered. "You are still weak." Her eyes blazed. "Then test me." The battle erupted like a storm. The Diaraken ships descended, their plasma lances scorching through space. Kale's frigate darted between the beams, shields flaring with every impact. He piloted with deadly precision, the ship shuddering but never faltering. The alien girl strapped into the weapons station. Her newly restored arm moved with flawless grace, her cybernetic eye tracking enemy movements in ways even Diaraken enhancements could not. She fired rail slugs with pinpoint accuracy, tearing through the enemy's flanking craft. The Diaraken underestimated her again. They expected her shots to falter, her systems to fail. Instead, each strike was clean, calculated, devastating. Human ingenuity had made her stronger than she ever could have been under Diaraken hands. Kale shouted over the roar of alarms. "They'll try to board us." He was right. A Diaraken warship latched onto their hull, magnetic clamps grinding into place. The enemy poured through the breach, towering warriors, armored and merciless. The alien girl rose from her seat. Fear twisted in her chest, but Kale's voice steadied her. "Together. They met the attackers side by side. Kale's rifle barked plasma rounds, dropping Duraken in bursts of light. But it was the alien girl who stunned them most. She moved with fluid precision, her restored arms striking like lightning. Her strength, her speed, human technology had turned her so-called defects into weapons of her own design. One Duraken warrior sneered as he lunged at her. "You were nothing." She caught his blade with her cybernetic hand, crushed it in her grip, and hurled him across the corridor. Her voice rang like iron. "I was nothing to you. But to him, I am everything." The Duraken faltered. For the first time, doubt flickered in their eyes. The fight raged on until only the commander remained. He stood in the ruined corridor, his blade dripping with plasma, his armor cracked from battle. His gaze locked on her, full of fury and disbelief. "You shame us," he growled. "You ally with vermin. You should have died." The alien girl stepped forward, Kale at her side. Her scars burned, her body ached, but her voice was unshaken. "I did die, the moment you cast me aside. But he gave me life again." Kale leveled his rifle at the commander. "And now she's not alone." The Duraken charged with a roar. Together, human and alien met him head-on, Kale's rifle blasting through armor, her augmented strength tearing his blade from his hands. In one final strike, she drove him to the deck, pinning him there with a power he had once claimed she lacked. The commander wheezed in disbelief, his arrogance shattered. "You should not exist." She leaned close, her golden eyes burning. "Then remember this. Humanity makes the impossible exist." With a final blow, the battle ended. The silence after the fight was deafening. The Duraken ships, leaderless and stunned, retreated into the void. The galaxy would whisper of this day, of an outcast who defied her people, and of a human who stood with her when no one else would. On the deck of the battered frigate, Kale turned to her, his armor scorched, his face smeared with sweat and blood. "Told you," he said with a weary grin. "Not broken." For a long moment she stared at him. Her chest tightened, not with fear, not with shame, but with something fierce and unshakable. She bowed her head, not in submission, but in gratitude. "Because of you." He shook his head. "No, because of us." And as the stars stretched before them, the alien girl realized that her future was no longer defined by failure. It was written in fire, steel, and the unyielding bond of a human who refused to let her fall. Together they had defied the galaxy. Together they had triumphed. And in that triumph, the broken alien girl was broken no more. The ship drifted in silence after the battle, its hull scarred and smoking, but still alive, much like its two passengers. Kale leaned against the bulkhead, stripping down his rifle and cleaning it with mechanical calm. His armor was battered, his knuckles raw, yet his eyes still carried that same steady fire. The alien girl sat across from him, her once broken arm resting against her knees. The hum of her restored cybernetics whispered with life, but it was her heartbeat she noticed most of all. Fast, alive, unchained. For a long time neither spoke. The battle's echoes still hung in the air, heavy and sharp. She could still feel the weight of her clan commander beneath her grip, the disbelief in his eyes as she shattered everything he believed about strength. At last, she broke the silence. "I thought," her voice faltered then steadied, "I thought defeating them would fill me. That proving myself would be enough." She lifted her gaze to him, her golden eyes fierce but uncertain. "But it wasn't. It is not their judgment that defines me anymore, is it?" Kale set down the rifle, his expression softening. He shook his head. "No. Never was. You've been carrying their chains long after they left you. Today you broke them. Her throat tightened. And you, she struggled to form the words, foreign but true. You gave me the strength to believe I could. Kale chuckled, weary but genuine. I just gave you tools. You did the rest. She smiled faintly. The motion felt strange on her lips. Alien and used, but right. For the first time in years, she was not defined by her failures, her scars, her rejection. She was defined by the choice she made to stand. And by the one human who had stood with her. In the following days, word spread. Smugglers whispered in cantinas. Merchants passed rumors along trade lanes. The story of an outcast Diraken and the human who claimed her as his own grew with every retelling. To some, it was an oddity. To others, an insult to the Diraken's pride. But to many, the broken, the discarded, the forgotten across the galaxy, it was a spark of hope. That humanity, fragile though they were, carried a defiance no empire could crush. That even the broken could rise again. On the observation deck, as the ship coasted through starlight, the alien girl stood beside Kale. The nebula spilled its colors across the void. Violet storms, silver rivers of cosmic dust. She had never looked at the stars like this before. Not with fear. Not with bitterness. With possibility. What now? She asked softly. Kale folded his arms. His gaze steady on the horizon. We keep going. Fixing what we can. Fighting when we must. One step at a time. She tilted her head, considering him. You speak as though this bond between us will last. Kale smirked. Oh, it will. You're stuck with me. Her laugh surprised even herself. A sound bright and strange, carrying into the quiet deck. She looked at him, and for the first time, she allowed herself to believe in a tomorrow. Not because she had reclaimed her people's approval. She didn't need it. But because she had found something far greater. A place where she belonged. In time she would stand against other enemies. She would fight alongside Kale in battles that tested them both. She would become a legend not of the Diraken, but of her own making. Proof that broken things could be reforged into something greater than before. But for now, she stood in silence beside the human who had seen her not as a defect, not as a burden, but as his own. And as the stars stretched endlessly before them, the alien girl, once broken, once abandoned, felt whole again, because she was no longer alone.